Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the blistering heart of the Aztec Empire barefoot, half-starved, and barely old enough to hold a spear. You're not a warrior yet, not even close. You're a baby, but don't expect lullabies or bedtime. Snacks. This is a world where your first breath is a commitment to the gods, and your body is a future offering. The air is thick with incense and the smoke of morning fires. Somewhere nearby, a priest chants in Nahuatl, while your mother cradles you not to soothe you, but to whisper prayers that your bloodline be worthy. You're wrapped in maga fiber cloth, not for comfort, but because your tiny limbs must feel the discipline of restraint from day one. You're not being raised to be happy. You're being raised to be useful. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and what time it is where you're watching this. I always love seeing where we're all drifting off from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Aztecs didn't believe in childhood the way we do. There were no terribles, no kindergarten blues, just duty. And duty began early. Really early. If you were born male, your umbilical cord was buried on a battlefield, yes. Literally buried with spears and shields so that your spirit would grow up hungry for war. If you were born female, it was placed near the home's hearth fire to train your soul in domestic sacrifice. Equal pressure, different battlegrounds. Even the midwives were intense. They didn't just clean you up and swaddle you. No. They yelled at you, scolding you for being born into a world of pain and responsibility. You've come into a house of tears, they would say. Not exactly a baby shower, huh? Your cries were met not with cuddles, but with ritual. First baths involved chilly water. That's right, spicy water. A symbolic way of saying, get used to discomfort, kid. And if you were a noble-born child, lucky you'd also get a speech from a priest explaining how your life was a sacred debt to the sun god Telpochcalli. Imagine being guilt-tripped before you can crawl, and don't even think about slacking. As a toddler, if you misbehaved, say, you whined too much or didn't listen, you might be pricked with cactus spines. Not violently, but just enough to sting. Just enough to say, we're not here to raise soft hearts. And trust me, Aztec parents were equal opportunity disciplinarians. You could be born into a royal family or a humble farmer's hut either way, you were getting that sting. Still, historians debate just how strict these early years were. Some suggest the extreme punishments were more symbolic ritual warnings, rather than constant torments. Others say, nah, these kids lived in a full-time fear factory. What they all agree on, though, is that Aztec childhood was meticulously engineered to turn you into a servant of the state or a soldier of the gods. One weird little detail. Babies were sometimes briefly placed on warrior altars, just laid there for a blessing of courage. But there's a catch. The altars were often still stained with blood, fresh blood from sacrifices. Imagine that baptism photo. As you grow, let's say, you're now about 6, your training ramps up. By this age, you're already expected to help grind corn, carry water, and learn chants to the gods. That's on a slow day. Most days involve waking up before sunrise to sweep the family compound, scrub yourself clean, and chant praise to Tenashu, the sun deity. Because if the sun doesn't rise, it's your fault. Sleep well. And yes, parents could be punished by the state if you weren't shaping up. That's how serious this was. There were actual laws about how to raise children, and inspections to enforce them. No pressure. Mom and dad. Of course. Some of this harshness was survival strategy. The Aztecs lived in a hyper-competitive, highly militarized society, surrounded by enemies and constantly in need of captives for sacrifice. Every child, even the ones born into the elite classes, had to contribute to the system somehow. It was less find your passion and more prepare to bleed for the empire. One exception, twins. The Aztecs were fascinated and terrified by twins. Some believed they carried supernatural energy, either as future heroes or dangerous omens, depending on the mood of the priest that day. Being a twin could mean being extra protected or watched very closely. Now let's talk toys, if you can even call them that. A popular game for little boys involved throwing miniature spears at clay figures. Basically babyware practice. Girls might get little grinding stones or corn dolls, which sounds cute until you realize they were supposed to practice being married by age 8, and if you smiled too much while playing, that might be considered weakness. Joy was suspicious, but even the cruelest parts of this system came with a twisted kind of love. Parents believed that only through pain could a child's spirit be strong. They weren't trying to traumatize you, they were trying to fortify you. Pain was the fire that forged warriors, and forge you it did. By the time you're 10, your days are packed. Morning prayers, water hauling, training chants, firewood duties, sweeping, and oh yes, more cold baths, every single morning. Why? Because comfort is decay. That was the motto. If you got used to warmth, you'd melt in battle. There's even a theory, though it's still debated, that some noble families would temporarily send their sons to live among commoners just to toughen them up. Historians still argue whether this was widespread practice or just an ideal in moral literature. Either way, it speaks volumes about what the Aztecs valued: hardship. Hardship was sacred. And yet, there's beauty here too. The songs you learn are haunting. The rituals rich with flowers, obsidian, feathers are surreal. Your world is full of color, meaning, and intensity. Yes, it's harsh. Yes, you probably won't survive past 30, but your life matters in ways many modern people can't imagine. Every moment is watched by God's dots still. You're 10, and the idea of sleepovers or cartoons is laughable. Instead, you go to bed listening to old warriors recount their glory days and whisper about the next great war brewing on the horizon. You're not scared. You're ready. Or at least, you better be. You wake up before the sun again. Your sleeping mat is rough, made of woven reeds, and your bones still ache from yesterday's chores. Doesn't matter. There's corn to grind and water to fetch. You're 7 now, basically a full-time intern in the Aztec Empire. And if you don't move fast enough, that wooden switch your father keeps tucked in his belt loop is more than decorative. Your day starts with a cold bath. No negotiation. It's a sacred routine to keep your body disciplined and your mind alert. You shiver and scrub while your mother chants under her breath, maybe something at Tlaloc, god of rain, or to Kotliku, the terrifying earth goddess who wears a necklace of hands and hearts. You try not to picture her face while you're washing yours. Don't even think about dragging your feet if you're caught dawdling. Your parents might threaten to hold your face over the acrid smoke of burning chili peppers. No joke. That was a real punishment, called chili smoke discipline. The stinging smoke is supposed to purge your laziness and your sinuses. At breakfast, there's no talking unless spoken to. You might get a little maize porridge or maybe a strip of bean paste. If it's a lucky day, protein, that's for warriors. You're still in the training phase, aka earn your lizard leg privilege. And what's on the schedule? Oh, just some light agriculture, heavy stone hauling, memorizing poems to the gods, and not crying when you stub your toe. You're learning to suppress pain, to carry weight that's too heavy, to obey instructions before they're finished being said. Childhood, Aztec style, is less sandbox fun and more pre-soldier boot camp. Still, not all kids were trained the same. If you were the child of a noble family, your life came with extra pressure and extra polish. You'd still wake up early, still do the cold baths, still get yelled at, but you might also be expected to recite cosmological prayers or start learning how to read sacred pictographs. Think of it as military prep with a side of philosophy. Commoner children, meanwhile, focused on physical endurance. You might help carry bundles of firewood bigger than your torso, or assist your father in the fields. And if you slipped up, say, you broke a clay pot or showed a hint of attitude, your punishment might be temporary abandonment. Yes, some parents literally left their kids outside in the dark wilderness to scare the softness out of them for a few hours, just enough to remind them what's out there: jaguars, spirits, and loneliness. Again, scholars still argue whether this was an everyday thing or more of a legendary threat used to keep kids in line. But the stories endure, and in an empire where gods drank blood and death was seen as promotion, a few hours in the dark woods was considered a mild lesson. Let's take a second to talk about schooling, or what passed for it. Aztec kids weren't exactly choosing between math and music electives. Around age 10 to 12, boys and girls were sorted based on class and future roles. Boys were groomed either for priesthood or warfare, while girls were trained to run a household or a temple. Now, technically, every child went to school. Education was compulsory. But education is doing a lot of work here. For boys, school was more like a prolonged hazing ritual, with a spiritual twist. For girls, it was strict discipline, wrapped in flower metaphors. If you were a noble's son, you went to the calmecac, a school run by priests. Sounds fancy, right? Nope. It's a mix of military drills, fasting, cleaning temple floors, and memorizing hymns until your voice cracks. At night, you sleep cold and hungry, not because food is scarce but because comfort makes you weak. That's the motto. If you were a commoner's son, you went to the telpochcalli, the house of youth. A bit rougher, less chanting, more sweating. You hauled wood, built temples, learned to march in sync, and probably got smacked with the maguey stock if you misstepped. And there were no medals for effort, Only results. Girls weren't exempt. By the way, they didn't go to telpochcalli, but they trained just as hard spinning thread, grinding corn, preparing ritual offerings, and studying domestic prayers. There's even evidence that some girls trained as priestesses or midwives, roles that carried immense power and pressure. And remember that chili smoke discipline. That's not just for little kids. If a telpochcalli student slacked off, their teachers might dig a pit, fill it with smoke, and make them sit in it. Aztec aromatherapy. But make it punishment. Now, let's zoom in on your typical training day. At the telpochcalli, you arrive before dawn, barefoot. You start by sweeping the entire courtyard because sweeping is both humbling and symbolically sacred. Then, group marches with heavy loads. Carrying firewood across long distances is one of the key tests. Why? Because if you can't carry a tree on your back now, how will you carry a wounded comrade later? There's also music, but not the fun kind. You learn to beat war drums and play bone flutes not for entertainment, but to terrify enemies and honor gods. The rhythm of war is drilled into you, literally. Lunch is barely a bite. Maybe some tortilla crumbs if the instructor's in a good mood. No meat, no spice, no joy. That's for warriors who've earned it. You're still mud on the sandals of the empire. Sometimes you sneak glances at the older boys, those training to become eagle or jaguar warriors. They strut through the compound in jaguar pelts or feathered cloaks, eyes sharp, bodies scarred. They've already captured enemies in battle. They've earned names. You're still just boy. You don't even get a proper name until you've proven yourself. Up until then, your identity is tied to your parents, your neighborhood, your school. You exist only in preparation for something bigger, a future sacrifice, a glorious death. Or if you're lucky, a long career of glory and respect. And you wonder, maybe late at night, lying on your straw mat, what happens if you fail? If you collapse on the march? If you flinch at the sight of blood? The answer isn't printed in any manual, but it's clear in every look, every grunt, every carefully measured slap from your instructors. You're not allowed to fail, because failure isn't just about you. It's about your ancestors, your city, your gods. If you don't shape up, someone else will take your place. Maybe someone who doesn't cry when their fingernails are torn off during strength training. Yes, that was a thing. Rare, but documented. There's no rebellion here. No teenage tantrums. No dreamy doodling in the margins. There's just the weight of legacy, and the chill of a future lined with obsidian blades. And so, as night falls and the stars gleam over the temple pyramids, you lie still, your muscles aching, your breath slow. You can hear chanting in the distance, elders calling out to the gods for guidance, for war, for sunrise. You're too tired to pray, but you whisper one anyway, because tomorrow, the training gets harder. The temple bells echo in the darkness, low and hollow like the growl of a jaguar. You wake instantly, no snooze button, no gentle morning light, just the dry rattle of drums and the distant screech of macaws. You're 15 now, which means one thing: the real work begins. No more chores around the house. No more sweeping courtyards or fetching water for mom. You've officially entered the telpochcalli full-time, or if you're a noble, the calmecac. Either way, welcome to warrior school. There's no syllabus, no welcome gift bag, just obsidian, knives, blazing torches, and instructors who look like they haven't smiled since the last solar eclipse. Here's your daily schedule. Wake up, march until your legs burn, fast until you see stars, and train until your limbs go numb. Then recite hymns, memorize lineage names, and if you're lucky, eat a plain tortilla. It's like boot camp and seminary school. Had a baby, then raised it with zero affection and lots of shouting. At the stage, your instructors aren't just grizzled warriors, they're walking trauma machines. Men who've seen battles, captured enemies, and stared down death without blinking. One of them, you hear, once bit off a rival's ear during a capture ceremony. That might be an exaggeration, but it also might not. Your lessons, they're brutal. You learn how to wield the macuahuitl, a wooden sword embedded with sharp obsidian blades that can decapitate with the right swing. You practice footwork in the dust until your heels bleed. You're drilled in spear throwing, shield work, and how to use the atlatl, a deadly spear thrower that can launch projectiles with terrifying speed. There's even a form of sneak training. You and your group might be sent into the forest at night with instructions to steal an idol, or infiltrate a guarded area. If you get caught, you're punished not gently. If you succeed, you're praised but reminded you're still not good enough. And yes, there are rituals. Lots of them. You participate in mock ceremonies, reenacting famous battles or legendary sacrifices. Sometimes you have to roleplay as a captive, tied up and taunted, to learn how to hold your dignity if it ever becomes not roleplay. Other times, You play the warrior, shouting chants and raising your arms to the gods as if you've already earned your place in the stars. Because here's the thing. The Aztecs didn't just train you to fight. They trained you to perform. War was sacred theater. Every battle a cosmic offering. Every enemy captured a living tribute. So your training is theatrical, intense, and deeply spiritual. Your instructors even teach you how to scream properly. A true warrior's battle cry is part intimidation, part spiritual signal to the gods. You're expected to master it loud, guttural, with no fear in your lungs. Lose your voice in the process? Good. It means you're trying. Some days, you're brought to the temple precinct for advanced instruction, not just on combat, but on cosmology. You learn that the current world, the fifth sun, is only one version of creation, and that it will eventually be destroyed like all the others. You're being trained not just to fight in this world, but to die well for the next one. In the calmecac, especially, this blend of military and spiritual training is deep. You might spend entire days fasting while meditating on the fates of legendary warriors. You walk barefoot over thorny agave leaves. You recite ancient poems about sacrifice, stars, and the eternal war between light and darkness. It's like spiritual CrossFit, but with way more blood imagery. Of course, historians still debate how much of this training was universally applied. Some argue the telpochcalli was more basic, practical, and gritty, while the calmecac leaned philosophical and ceremonial. But what's clear is that every boy, regardless of class, learned that to live honorably meant learning to die gloriously. There's a fringe belief, rare, but mentioned in some accounts, that instructors would stage fake ambushes at night to test your fear reflex. You'd be dragged from your sleep by masked elders in war paint, forced to respond instantly. Again, it's debated, but if it did happen, imagine what that does to your REM cycle. Still, not every lesson is violent. You're taught discipline, unity, and the value of silence. Marching in unison becomes a meditation. The rhythmic slap of bare feet on packed earth creates a kind of music. You move like a single body, a river of readiness. Even the insects hush when you pass. There's also song, harsh, percussive, haunting. You learn to sing war hymns, not just to remember history, but to become it. Our hearts, one song goes, let us gather flowers, let us offer our blood, let us earn the sky. No pressure, right? And then, of course, there are the survival games. One involves foraging for food in the forest with no tools, only your wit. Another has you navigate mazes of stone while blindfolded. You crawl through tunnels, and your smoke trials, and stand perfectly still for hours under the midday sun. There's no trophy, no good job sticker, just a nod. Maybe still. It's not all drills and dust. Sometimes, just sometimes, there's a flicker of something like pride. An instructor pauses after your clean spear throw and doesn't say again. A feathered warrior you admire tosses you an extra maize cake. A priest recites your name in front of others. Tiny moments, but they burn brighter than any fire. And then comes your first real test, the captive run. It's not a game. You and your cohort must simulate battle in full gear against older trainees who will not go easy on you. You are expected to capture, not kill, one of them, using strategy, not just strength. This is where you learn the truth. In the Aztec world, it's harder to capture than to kill. It takes restraint, skill, planning. One wrong move and the gods get no offering and you get no glory. You fail, most do, the first time. You get knocked flat, disarmed, and dragged through the dirt. The instructors shake their heads. You are not mocked, but you are marked. You wear ash on your face the next day as a sign of your failure. And that burns worse than any wound. But you learn, you reflect, and you try again, because there's no other option. You're being shape-sharpened for a future where mercy is weakness and death is graduation. And besides, the captives are waiting. The drums are louder now. Not metaphorically, they are literally louder. Because now, you're marching not through temple courtyards or forest trails, but across enemy terrain. The sky smells of rain and smoke. Your chest is painted in streaks of red ochre. The obsidian blades on your Weedle glint like shark teeth. You're 16, maybe 17. Your training is over. It's time to fight. But here's the weird twist. Your goal in battle isn't to kill. Nope. Your mission is to capture. Alive. That's the mark of a real warrior. See, in the Aztec worldview, killing an enemy wasn't nearly as impressive as bringing him back. Sacrifice is currency, and captives are gold. The more you capture, the higher you rise. One captive, you're a beginner. 4. Now we're talking. That earns you a new name, better clothing, and a seat closer to the fire during war council. You've been trained for this moment for years. You know the strategy. Don't go for the throat. Go for the legs, trip, disarm, tackle, bind. Precision over power, like wrestling a jaguar. But you're not allowed to let it die. And these battles, they're organized, intense, and terrifying. We're not talking chaotic skirmishes in muddy fields. This is ritual warfare, called the Flower Wars, or Ixochiil. These were carefully planned engagements where both sides agreed to fight primarily for capturing warriors rather than total destruction. Why? Because sacrifices had to happen on a cosmic schedule. The sun god Huitzilopochtli demanded blood to keep rising, and if no one offered it, darkness. Forever. That was the logic. So here you are, ankle deep in hot dust, eyeing your first real opponent across the battlefield. He's from Tlaxcala, a fierce rival city, painted in lime and black. His feathers ruffle in the wind like a warning. You both scream dot, and then you run. Your heart pounds so loud it drowns out the conch shell blast. Your feet barely touch the earth. The heat wraps around your chest like armor, and then clang you. Clash. It's chaos. Blades swing, shields smack, bodies tangle. Your training kicks in. You remember to feint right, twist left, sweep his leg, and then boom, he's down. You wrestle him, grapple him, tie his arms with maguey fiber cords. He thrashes. You whisper prayers. You win. Your first captive, back at camp. Your instructor nods just once. That's basically a parade in Aztec terms. You're allowed to eat real food tonight, spiced tamales, maybe even turkey. But more importantly, you've taken the first step toward becoming a yautl, a true warrior. A name is coming soon. Maybe even a feathered cloak. You've entered the social hierarchy now, the elite warrior societies. There are several tiers. The most coveted, eagle warriors and jaguar warriors. To qualify, you need multiple captives. Some say 4, others say 6. Historians still debate the exact requirements. Some argue rank was granted based on ritual performance as well. But what's not debated? Once you earn that status, your life changes forever. Eagle warriors wear feathered helmets, styled like open-beaked raptors. Their armor is elaborate, colorful, dazzling. They represent the sun, the sky, the hunt. Jaguar warriors, on the other hand, don sleek, spotted pelts. They are nighttime predators. They stalk and pounce. Both are elite forces, bodyguards to nobles, leaders in battle, and symbols of cosmic power. You're not there yet, but you're close. The rituals that follow your capture are intense. Your captive is washed, painted, and marched through the city streets. People cheer not for him, but for you. Because your success feeds the gods. Literally, the sacrifice is public, loud, and sacred. The priest raises the obsidian blade. The chest splits. The heart is offered to the sun. You don't flinch. You've been trained not to. But that night, when the fire burns low, you think about his face, his name, the way he grunted when you tied his wrist. You feel proud, but you also feel something else. A kind of silence inside you, like an echo that hasn't come back yet. You don't tell anyone. Soon, you're sent on another campaign. This time, deeper into enemy lands. You march with older warriors. Some of them have lost eyes, fingers, entire ears. They laugh and grunts, and sleep with one eye open. One wears a necklace of bone dice, real bones. Probably not from animals. In this battle, you fail. You're wounded. A spear grazes your thigh. You limp back. No captive. No name. Just pain and embarrassment. You're told to fast for 2 days as penance. Not punishment. Refocusing. There's a phrase your instructor mutters as he wraps your leg with herbs. Only the jaguar who starves knows how to pounce. And it works, because next time out, you bring back to captives. Now, things start to change. You get a better cloak. You're invited to dine with the veterans. You're allowed to wear a lip plug, a turquoise disc that marks your rising status. People start calling you by your war name. You don't answer to your birth name anymore. You've earned this one. And maybe, just maybe, you're offered a place in a warrior society. Let's pause for a fringe detail, one you don't hear often. Some captives, if they fought bravely enough, were treated like honored guests before their sacrifice, given feast, fancy clothing, even women, a weird, respectful farewell before they were walked up the temple steps. Creepy? Yes, but it shows the Aztecs believed deeply in the dignity of courage even in enemies. Your own path to honor continues. The more captives you take, the more the city notices. You're painted on murals. Your deeds are sung by traveling poets. You are told your soul, when it dies, will soar eastward, chasing the sunrise, fighting beside the gods in the celestial war. But not yet. You're still breathing, still fighting, still perfecting your scream, because the only thing more dangerous than war is glory. They've stopped calling you boy. Now it's jaguar, eagle, or whatever honor name you earned through blood, bruises, and broken nights. You're maybe 20 now, though nobody's really counting birthdays in the Aztec Empire. Time is measured by battles, by how many captives you've brought in, by whether you're still breathing when the conch horns stop echoing through the valley. And congratulations, you're not just a warrior anymore. You're a symbol. Your feathered cloak announces your status from rooftops. Your face is painted with blue or black stripes depending on your campaign. You walk straighter, sleep less, and eat better sometimes when you're not off on another war party into rival territory. But here's the catch: the higher you climb, the fewer places there are to go. Because you're not just expected to be a warrior now. You're expected to produce more of them. You start mentoring the younger ones, those scared little telpochcalli recruits with oversized shields and more dirt on their faces than muscle on their bones. You yell at them. You show them how to move silently, how to set traps, how to chant before battle so their voice doesn't crack, because you remember. You remember all of it. The chilly smoke, the cold baths, the priest's cracked voice describing how the world would collapse without sacrifice, the fear of failure, the hunger, the silence. Now it's your turn to enforce the code. But there's still one final test, and it's not one you choose. You see, Aztec warriorhood wasn't just about what you did while alive. It was also about what happened to you when you died. Your end matters. In fact, your manner of dying determines everything. If you die in battle, that's the dream. You ascend to the sun, fight beside Huitzilopochtli, and return to Earth as a hummingbird or butterfly, beautiful, revered, recycled glory. There's a belief that you will accompany the sun as it rises in the east each morning, your spirit burning bright alongside the day star. That's warrior heaven. If you die a captive, but bravely, still honorable. Especially if you're sacrificed in the great temples, on top of Templomer, with flutes playing and priests chanting your name. Painful, absolutely. But remember, pain is power, and some warriors believe that moment, that instant of sacrifice, was the truest expression of their devotion. It wasn't about surviving. It was about offering. If you die in your sleep, at home, old and withered, yeah, not ideal. Kind of like being benched forever. You might be reborn as something smaller, a worm, a cloud, or nothing at all. Unless you were a woman who died in childbirth, then you'd be treated with the same honor as a fallen warrior, because bringing life into the world, in Aztec eyes, was the equal of taking it. Some scholars say this created a quiet desperation in older warriors, that they would seek battle near the end of their life, craving the heroic death they'd trained for. Others argue the state used this belief to keep the ranks full and the temple steps read. Either way, you know one thing: when your time comes, you want it to mean something. So you keep fighting. You march to Oaxaca, to Tlaxcala, to the jungles near the Gulf. You return with stories and scars. Your ears ring with the memory of death, cries, and your dreams are stitched with the faces of the ones you tied down. You've seen fellow warriors rise in rank, then vanish into the next world. You've danced in celebration feasts where the food was rich, but the silence afterward felt like mourning. You've worn gold bracelets, but they're heavy. And you know why. And then it happens. You're on a campaign in the east, in the highlands, where the air is thin and the wind smells like burning pine. There's a skirmish, a blur of obsidian and feathers. You don't see the blow coming. A club to the back. Your knees buckle. The ground rushes up to meet you. You wake tied. They've captured you. You're the offering now. There's no panic. You've prepared for this. You were born for this. The rival warriors treat you with respect. You're fed, painted, given new clothes. You even share a story or two. It's strange, peaceful. You're allowed one last dance. Not to beg, but to show grace. Then the steps, the drums, the feathers brushing your face. You kneel on the altar, and you smile, because this is the final lesson. The moment that proves everything you were trained for. You feel the sun overhead. You hear the chant rising like fire. You are not afraid. You are becoming part of the stars. The drums fade now. So does the heat, and the dust, and the heavy breath of battle. The obsidian blade rests unused. Your muscles uncoil, soft and loose, like clouds peeling away from the mountains. You lie there, not on a stone temple, but in your own bed, your head on a pillow instead of a feathered helmet. The night is quiet. Maybe there's a breeze curling in from the window. Maybe it carries the scent of earth after rain. You're safe. You made it. You walked the long, punishing road of the Aztec warrior. Cold baths, smoky punishments, songs of blood and glory. You trained beside jaguar-hearted boys, marched through sacred forest, and stood atop the great pyramids of sacrifice. You learned to breathe through pain, to move without sound, to carry fire in your veins and never flinch. But now you can exhale, because this was only a story, a journey through another world far from here. A place of fierce devotion, impossible discipline, and honor forged in flame. And though their temples have crumbled and their gods have quieted, the warriors still march, if only in memory or in dreams. So let that dream drift. Let your thoughts slow. Let your breath lengthen. The stars overhead are gentle now. They watch, but they do not demand. You have nothing to prove tonight. Nothing to carry. Close your eyes. The gods are sleeping too.